write about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist. Am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
That was great sounds of Watts with Outside on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Preston, with my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made. His name is EZ BlueZ. And we got the OG Blurred himself, superhero to some, supervillain to many. His name is the Professor. He is with us with the special edition of Preston EZ BlueZ. Actually, he's with us whenever we want because we love the Professor. It's so very dearly. It's good to have him back on. And Easy, you are always better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us on the program today?
Ladies and gentlemen, to understand what a safe place is, to be yourself, to understand exactly where you can be without limits, without boundaries, and to be there creatively is one of the most important things out there. And for these people that facilitate these safe places for us all to be in our weird and in our fun, it is incredible. So I want you to put your hands together, not if you're driving. If you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2 because we don't need any accidents. But mentally, put your hands together for the fantastic, the amazing, the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Matthew Sardo is in the building, and he is here representing Indie Creator Con. Welcome, Benvenue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Indie Comics Creator Con. That is the show, and it's amazing. Yes.
How are you?
I'm very excited. I'm also very nervous, and I'm also like in that like sprint mode of the show. It's like the 12 months leading up to the show is kind of a marathon, and now we're in like that last mile where like everything starts showing up. Like the yard sign showed up yesterday, and the badges are showing up, and then like all the stuff for the gift bags are starting to show up. So I'm like trying to keep everything organized, and then my house is also like filled up with tons of boxes. Prepping for the show, so like I'm in massive show prep now, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys.
Now, for those who don't know, what exactly is this event that we're kind of gassing up here?
Okay, so Indie Comics Creator Con is a one-day show at Southern Connecticut State University. We had the first one last March. We had about 90 plus creators come down, and we took over the whole third floor of the Student Center at Southern Connecticut, and it was a real blast. We had people coming in from like all over the world. Like Chad came in from Denmark, and we had a whole West Coast contingent. This year, we're gonna have 175 plus. I think the final count is like right around like 182 creators coming in. Nobody international. We got some Canadians coming in, but a huge group are coming up from Savannah, from the Art College. From there, and then we have a lot of locals as well, and this show is going to be bigger and better. Like it's going to be insane. I'm so excited that we've like almost doubled the number of creators coming down because that's the focus. It's Indie Comics Creator Con, so everybody who is going to be at the show tabling has self-published a comic book.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's no like tchotchke shops or anything like that. It's just pure celebration of creators.
That's awesome. What made you want to do this, man? What made you just want to be that rogue?
Oh man, that's I'm glad we're on the radio and we have time.
We've got this is your story. You tell us as much or as little as you want,
brother. Man. Yeah.
So I grew up in Orange County, New York, like upstate New York a little bit for everybody living in the city. And I moved to California when I was 19 in like the rise and fall of the .coms.
Right.
And I went to school out there, and then I had a friend moving to Chicago, and I was like, oh, let me check out Chicago. And I moved to Chicago probably like 2002. Right. And I was like bartending and going to school and finishing up my degree and everything like that. And I fell in love with like Graham Cracker Comics in downtown Chicago. Nice. And it was awesome. It was so good. I would bartend, I'd make my money, and then I'd blow all my money at the comic book shop. Like it was awesome. It was right when like Hal Jordan, the crisis, and it was like the revival of comic book writers.
Right.
They became like center stage, and it was a really amazing. Brian Michael Bendis was like just starting to do all the crazy New Avengers stuff, and it was a really amazing time to be in comic books. And I was bartending and I was doing everything, and I was in sport. I was in journalism. That's my degree was journalism.
Right.
And I could either go to like Decatur, Illinois, and cover high school football in the middle of nowhere and like work my way up the ladder to do sports journalism, or I could like open up a comic book shop. Which road of being broke do I want to go down?
Right. Exactly. How broke do you want to be today?
So in 2006, I sold all my comic book collection. I sold like all the toys and collectibles I had. It's kind of like the Kevin Smith story, selling all this stuff to make his film. I sold all my cool collectibles, and I opened up the Comic Vault in Chicago, about a mile north of Wrigley Field.
Right.
And I had that store for 5 years. We were nominated for 2 Eisners. We made it to the finals once, which was pretty awesome. But the really cool thing about my shop, and well, it was one of the have to things of my shop, is I had to do events. I did events all the time.
That's awesome.
We did like one year we did ZombieCon.
Okay.
And because that's right when Walking Dead was going crazy as well.
Right.
And, like, that everything was big time. And I had all my friends, from bartending, and I had a text message chain where I was like, hey, call NBC and tell them that there's some crazy ruckus going on at the corner of this. And, we got some news coverage for ZombieCon, and we did that a few more times until they caught on to it. For Free Comic Book Day, would have everybody, this is back in the analog days, before the internet kind of blew up. And we were able to like manipulate the news to do cool stuff. And we also did a fundraiser with Lance Briggs of the Chicago Bears. And we were on ESPN because he had a charity that we were co-working with and everything like that. So I was doing some really cool things in the comic book community in Chicago, but it was all event based.
Right.
But this was all during and this was a great, crazy cool time too. Because you had the George Bush era leading into the Obama era, and Obama's from Chicago. So I mean, it blew up. The city blew up when Obama was elected.
Yeah.
Right.
But also in comic books, you killed off Captain America, and you had the Obama cover as well. There was a lot of moving parts that were reflecting society in comic books as well. And it was just a really cool time to be in comic books. But it was also the recession, I think they rebuilt my whole street. They closed down the subway line as well. So I had to just keep doing all these crazy events to keep business going.
Yeah, just to keep the doors open.
Yeah. And so I did that for 5 years. And then I got married, and my wife didn't like living in cities. That should be a first question you ask your future wife, where do you want to live? Because if it's the town you're living in, that might be a problem.
No, we understand.
Yeah, no, that definitely should be in the pre-qualifiers.
But the crazy thing about women is you just never know what you're going to get. They're so unpredictable. So, you just a lot of stuff you just have to tolerate.
Well, we all accept the amount of crazy we can handle.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's so true. That's so true. But especially when it comes to comic books, man, because you meet so many. For me, it's positive because this stuff really excites me, and this stuff is really my dopamine. I love comics. I love talking about comics. I love talking about these fantastic characters that we wish we can be or aspire to be. In any type of way. And you meet so many great people. I have never met a negative Nancy when it comes to this world at all. Trust me, this is my perspective. I haven't met one in person, but trust me, you're going to get your keyboard warriors or wants to say some crazy stuff online. But when it comes to meeting someone in person, at a con or at a comic book shop, it's always a positive vibe. And I know you told me about these responsibilities you had just back in the day. What pains me is that we really don't have that much comic book shops now. A lot of people don't know how important to me those shops are. I don't like downloading the apps and on the phone because it's not really a good experience from the book. The imagination doesn't go so far out there when you read that book instead of just that application on the phone or listen to audio and just the experience of going in there. To me, it's better than a library. You get to be with those people and interact with those people and everything when you go into the comic book shop. Just from your opinion, just as an owner and just more into that world, how come we don't have these shops anymore? How come we don't more people like don't support these shops anymore? Just like going in it. I'm not just saying like buying stuff because like there's like clearance and stuff like that, but just as a vibe going in and just experiencing these connections with people because I really feel that's missing nowadays.
No, that was the best part of the shop is nobody ever came into my shop upset or
Yeah.
left upset. This was their escape. They came in, they were like, "Oh, this is my time to just be myself and just get lost in imagination and grab a few books and then, think about the time that I'm going to get a chance to read them." And I totally agree with you on physical media and, because when you're reading something digitally, you're just scrolling.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
there is a pause when you like grab that page and you flip it over. Like your brain pauses, everything pauses, and like there's a beat there. And I totally agree with you. And I'm trying to figure. This is one of the things that we're going to do at the show. Is on the Friday we're going to have for the creators we're going to have like a round table meeting of just all the creators that are going to be there and just try to solve one problem of the industry.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the things and going back to like owning a shop, like the thing that I was best at was throwing events. So I was like, okay, if I could throw an event once a year and spend the rest of the year promoting it, like I think I'm really good at that. And now that I have kids and my schedule's chaos, like it also helps only having to like seriously have to be somewhere like 4 days in a row, like when you have kids and everything like that.
Yeah.
But since I've basically toured not Chicago, toured Connecticut and Massachusetts and Rhode Island and talked to comic book store owners because I've gone in and been like, here's some free tickets, and I've done ticket drops all over the state.
Right.
There are some really good shops out there. Alternate Universe is a sponsor of the show, so like that's huge. That they have two shops. They have the one in New Haven and
Orange, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Boom Tomb Comics. Like those two shop owners, I mean, they do a really good job of like promoting indie books and also like just having events at their shops and creating a community. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch I'm leaving out. There's Wonderland Comics that I see doing a really good job in like the northeast corner of Connecticut. And the more I explore, I didn't realize how cool a scene like New England had in comic books because I grew up in upstate New York by West Point, and I didn't understand until I moved here why my parents never went on 95 heading towards Connecticut. Yeah. But once you get on that road, you're like, oh my God, I never want to be on this road ever again. So we always went south. We always went to the Jersey side, leaving New York. But no, like there's some cool shops in Rhode Island, in Mass, like so there are really good shops. In the town in Connecticut, and then I wish I lived closer to them. That's my biggest problem. Is I live in Eastham and I'm not close to any of the really cool shops. There is Comics and Coffee, and I'm blanking on where they are, but I think they're in Hamden over there. But that place is awesome because you walk in and it smells like freshly brewed coffee.
Oh yeah, man.
Like just that aroma, like it's almost like the casino where they're pumping in oxygen. You walk into that shop and they're pumping in caffeine, and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna dig through some boxes. This is gonna be great.
Professor, I saw you praying and smiling. I don't want to take any time from you. So if you want to ask some great questions to Matt, man, go right ahead. I'm not holding you back, brother.
No. So you can hear me, right?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah.
You got a great voice.
Okay, so Alternate Universe is a love to me. That was my first comic shop because I grew up in New Haven. And what I was going to ask was, I noticed a transition from when I was going to the shop in my teens, early teens into my late teens, and even as an adult, I stopped by. I love that place. I started noticing as an adult that there are more adult comic book collectors, and again, for me, it's a nostalgia thing. I still own several books of like boxes of comics and stuff. But do you think that transition, because I don't see a lot of young kids, like again, when I was a early teen, like in my late teens, I saw like people my age in those shops, but now I'm seeing older people going into the shops and buying books and stuff like that. Do you think that hurt the market? Like the not having the youth more and more of the, again, older gents like me and people, the adult population, comic book lovers in the shops. Do you think that hurt the business at some point? Well, did it hurt it for you as a comic book shop owner?
No, it's. I mean, I lived in the shop was in Chicago, so we had an adult. It was a more of an adult crowd that was coming in. But I would see some younger people come in, and I would see some even younger kids come in, and so we built a kids section, and then we tried to like curate. At the time, we had I think like 5 employees, and they were it was a good mix of people that worked at the shop. And as one of my things is I like to I like to prop up people and give them ownership. And I was like, here, create your section, tell us what you like in comic books, because there was, I could walk when somebody walked to the store and they're like, I don't know about comic books. And I was like, listen, there's a comic book out there for everybody. And if you can't find it, it's because you're lazy. It's because you're lazy because you can't find the comic book. But I will do my best to help you find that comic book, and we can go down a path as short or as long as you want to go down. Like if you want to go to the long path, let's talk about X-Men. If you want to if you wanted to go down the short path, like let's talk about Walking Dead, or Invincible. Like where like here's trade 1, you can go straight at the time you can go straight to trade 5 and then pick up the monthly issues as you want, or the trade market. So I guess my thing of what hurts the industry is that there isn't sales training for comic book store owners or retail training.
Yes.
Because basically it's like, because I analyzed the market. I think when I opened up my shop, I went to 100 other shops around the United States. Like I was vacation in Florida. I went to California and researched the Illinois area and, said what I liked, what I didn't like, and, built from there on things. So like there's, like I'm a sports fan. So like, I use analytics, but I also understand the gut feeling, and then also, part of my degree was communications, like the art of communicating with people. So like from bartending as well, like somebody could walk up to me and I'm like, oh, I know what this person needs. So like I had all the sales training done, like how to handle customers, how to handle rude customers, in between, like, drunk customers, like how do I escort them without them starting a fight? But like trying to understand what their needs are when they walk into a building, like, and it's cool. It's really interesting in a comic book shop because like there's a lot of introverts and I'm an extrovert and I'm like, how can I make this like there was like one girl, I was like, if I can make this girl smile, it's going to make my like year, because she just kept her head down and got her books and never said a word and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to sell her a comic book. I'm going to make it happen. And it was just, and I think with the comic book shops, the community will automatically happen if you let it. But if you're, like a curmudgeon comic book store owner, the community will just be like, we'll have the comic book community outside of your shop. Right. But I think, comic book shops, I think, and I know that there's a lot of owning a comic book shop is really hard. And you're also an amazing person for doing that work because you don't really get a reward for that. But the shops that have stayed in business through all the rough times and everything like that evolve and they change. And the comic book store owners like that has steadfast been like, I only order Marvel and DC, and like now we have a problem because they're not selling, and they have all these other issues. They're too woke, they're too this, blah blah blah. I was like, your job is to sell. And if Marvel and DC aren't popular, there is a gazillion other indie books that could fit into other people's slots and sell things. I mean, Walking Dead was one of the number one selling books at my store.
Right.
That was before the show started. I was like, honestly, like and I could talk to Kirkman a lot, because it's about zombies. Like the background is zombies,
Right.
but it is really about humans
Yeah.
being horrible to each other, like that human dynamic. And then the next level is like his storylines, some of them are like a western, some of them are like a sci-fi movie. You see, like he broke up each one of those chapters and tried to tell a story in a different way. Like I forgot, like I think like 50 to 60 is like a Hitchcock tale,
Right.
I mean, like that. So I mean, like, it's when you look at comic books and somebody just comes in with like comic books for kids, or these aren't, you don't have the right Marvel or DC books. Like, no, like, let's open up your mind and like show you all these different things that you can do with comic books. And that's really that's how I'm so jazzed about Indie Comics Creator Con, because you have Marvel and DC, the big two, but then you have this other huge swath of creators that are doing everything all over the spectrum. And if you can't find a book to read at my show, or like, it's because, like, just come see me and I will walk you through the aisles, and I will like I think this person makes some amazing books. I think this person fits your style. Like I would love to like walk people through the show and talk about comic books.
Right.
And I love talking comic books with you and a professor on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. And Professor, to answer your question, yes, you can. Go right ahead.
Okay. So a follow-up question, just because I'm curious. So when I started going back into like alternate universe as an example, and I've been to other comic shops, I noticed something that was transforming them. Merchandise. So now I'm starting to see, the action figures, and, some of them are like, they have video game stuff, do you think that taints, because again, I've been reading comics since the 70s. I'm a comic purist. I love, I love comics. I collected the old Mego action figures and stuff. Matter of fact, I just bought a few recently. So I'm still in the world, and I love comics. But do you think that kind of takes away from the purity of just comics when you see a shop that now has like the the action figures and the video game setup, and does that take away? Because I've been to to a Comic Con, went to Terrific Con last year, and that was amazing. But they also had like the area where you could just buy action figures and stuff and merchandise. Do you think that takes away from the purity of the actual comics?
Are we talking about conventions, or are we talking about comic book shops?
Comic book shops.
No. As a former retailer, you do whatever you can to pay the rent.
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know. You do whatever you have to pay the rent. If
Good answer.
if you got to turn into a cafe and sell coffee and hot dogs and everything else, and then like you still have your comics coming through the door, like it's selling comics is not profitable. It's not like the monthly books. That is like kind of almost like a lost leader, I would say. But then like the trades, or the pops, the pop vinyls, or the other stuff, the higher items, like even like I still consider manga comic books. So like if they bring in a whole bunch of that, I'm like, oh, it's just different comic books. That's figure that out.
That was gonna be my other question. Yeah,
like the card games, whatever brings in the people to the store and makes it so that you can stay in business, you have to do as a retailer. And I've seen a lot of really good retailers, because when I opened up my shop in 2006, there was it was the boutique retailer was starting to open up, where it was like a cleaner shop, it wasn't some dude in the basement and stuff, and you were selling trades, and you were more of, it wasn't a huge back issue boom as well. But now, like 20 years later, the shops that are staying in business are buying collections, and they're doing live sales, and they're now everybody's got a keyboard, and they do the research, and like, okay, Captain America just came out in the movie, like what character in the background has a key issue, and how can we make those go up and stuff like that.
Right.
So I mean, like now there's like the back issue, key issue market is huge and everything like that, and always and so I think comic shops that stay in business will continue to evolve.
Okay. Good.
Speaking of evolution, I know you had the first con Southern last year, but how did you get in contact with just all these independent comic creators, if I could barely speak? Did they come to you, or did you come to them? With just being so many years within the comic book shop and in the comic book community, like that had to be a difficult job. How many people did you even turn down for the event?
Well, this past year,
Yeah.
we had 135 tables,
Mm-hmm.
and I cut it off when like 300 people applied. This past year.
Wow.
Yeah, there's still people bugging me like, "Hey, can I get on the wait list? Can I get on the wait list?" And so I think next year I'm just going to keep it open and see what that number actually is going to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's awesome.
so once I realized that my wife didn't want to live in a city, I shut down my shop. I wanted to sell it, but I couldn't find the right buyer, and I wanted to just keep the community that I created alive. And I couldn't find the right person to fit that, so it was better off just me like shutting it down and being like, that was a time in life, and move on from there. And so then I went down to Florida. We were in St. Pete, Florida, and I was in sports talk journalism, and I covered like the Rays, the Bucks, the Lightning, and always managed to find the professional athlete that liked comic books or movies. Like I was just like, who is the pop culture guy in the room? Who can I make that happen with? So that was like a lot of fun. But I started Monkeys Fighting Robots, where we like reviewed comic books and talked to creators, and I was always networking with creators from that.
Cool.
And that idea of the show came up, and I signed paperwork down in St. Pete to do the show, and the next Monday the pandemic hit.
Know the feeling. Very
Yeah.
That's how we started.
That's how we started this.
That's how we started this show. That's why I was coughing, because you cough, you know the truth. Like that's how we know the feeling too well. Continue. Oh man.
Yeah, no, there's
like
if you search out there's like there's posters out there for the first show down in St. Pete. You know, because it was St. Pete Indie Comic Expo, and that was the original name of it and stuff. And then, you know, I pushed it off a year, and then I pushed it off another year, and then by then, like, things in Florida were just getting crazy, and my wife and I decided to move to Connecticut because my kids were entering like school age.
Nice.
And so we found the nice little quiet East Lyme, Connecticut, and I love it, but I also like desperately miss the city. It's one of those things where I was like, I really like going to my like nice little quiet corner, and my kids having a really nice school to go to and stuff. But I like miss the city vibes. When I was like in Chicago, and I could sit on like the lawn and like their version of Central Park and eat lunch and then go back to school. Like it was such an amazing vibe.
Right.
And I talked to a few creators that live in New York City, and I was like I get a stupid grin on my face like when I'm walking through New York City, because like the city hits me and I feel the city is alive. And I just love it so much, where like you could just look around and it's like you have that little movie going on in your head where it's like everybody's doing, you know, the bodega over here, the pizzeria over here, people walking through, the tourists bumbling through there, and like I'm like, oh my God, this is such a moment. I love it so much. And so then I was like, I got to do the show. Once I moved up here, I was like, I got to get the show off the ground. I know too many things got to happen. And the amazing thing about Connecticut is they have a department in the government that helps people like me find venues. And
Really?
so I was their department of like gaming and tourism or something like that, you know?
Right.
I was like, hey, I want to bring a convention to Connecticut. And they were like, oh, let's go. It's kind of like having a real estate agent. Like, here's like the, you know, this hotel over here, this place over here, and then there's Southern. And I met the people at Southern, and I was like, oh, this is the place. Immediately, as soon as I got there, I was like, this is what I want. Like, I always love the vibes of colleges. You know, New Haven is a phenomenal city. I love it. You know, I mean, I love being there. It's about 45 minutes an hour from East Lyme, and I just love every time I go there. I'm like, okay, where am I going to eat? What am I going to do? Like, and then like just the vibe of like it's a city. It's a city on its own. And then plus I love driving by. Every time I drive past New Haven and I see all the food trucks, I'm like, this is the greatest place on earth.
Yes.
I was like, that food truck
Yes.
rally, like, isn't like, oh my God.
It's so good. It's so good.
Because I mean,
so good.
This is a sidebar of it, but like I love Mexican food more than life itself.
Right? Yeah, I know.
And the farther you get away from New York City on the Connecticut shoreline, the worse Mexican food gets.
Mm-hmm.
I think once like New Haven like is good, and then everything after New Haven just goes downhill. Like it's
that makes sense.
But every time I see those food trucks, it just puts the biggest smile on my face.
Go ahead, Easy.
I'm coming to Hartford actually, bro.
Yeah, let me know when we can.
I'm doing the Heartbeat Festival on June 14th.
Oh, you got it,
bro.
Because I'm right here in East Hartford.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Stone's Throw.
It's gonna be a whole day. Like we're gonna be partying the whole day. All right.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Please.
Okay.
As far as for the con, are there plans in the foreseeable future to have it more than one day? Will we get like a 3-day week pass? Will we get like a week thing with just like events, or will it be multiple locations for this? Just spearing ideas out there.
Yeah, no, I love all the ideas, and I think they're amazing. And the goal is to move it to a 2-day show.
Cool.
But the focus here is one of my main focuses is on the creator.
Absolutely.
So, when you start doing a 3 and 4 day show, like I don't want to call them the weekend warrior creators, but like, the people that have a job and then they do this as, second job or hobby, like they have to take time off,
right?
To do that. So I always want to keep it max 2 days so that you can drive in on a Saturday, leave on a Sunday, and still get back to work. And, if you have kids and a wife and, they're not going to give you too much grief.
Right.
That's awesome.
What have been some idea? No. Let me just rephrase my question. Let me just go back in time like 2 seconds. My question is, what are some comics or some standout vendors that blew your mind that you had to have for this con this year? Like, what are some material that we need to see that day?
Marty Keene.
Okay.
He was at the first show, and I met him like 6:30 in the morning on Saturday, and I was like, "Hey, you looking for the show?" And he's like, "Yeah," because he took the train in from the city.
Okay, cool.
And he was like, "Where's the show?" Blah blah. And I walked him in, and I didn't know this guy from Adam, and he was just like so jazzed and so pumped. We're walking down the hall, and he's like, "I feel like this is what it felt like for the first San Diego Comic-Con."
Oh,
and I was like, I got chills. I was like, man, I was like, this is awesome. But I really like what he's doing. He's working on some really cool books, and he also, because each one of these creators are little individual businesses, I really like what he does, promoting his books and trying to stand out in the crowd as well. Like he does like a bootleg Spider-Man that kind of reeled everybody in,
right?
And then he has like his indie books, and he's trying to do like this 80s homage to like noir and stuff with Steel Streets as well. I like him a lot. Vero Stewart is another amazing creator, and he does like, I guess I'm going to talk about all these guys about doing.
Go ahead.
I think, no, but I like there is an indie model where you do a bootleg book of something.
Right.
And she did like a bootleg Big Barda from DC book that looks really good, and it really caught me off guard. And I like her style a lot, and I'm very excited. And then also like where like Marty's like this hipster city Brooklyn kid, like Vero's like very bouncy and happy about comic books, and I'm like, I love both of their personalities.
You need people like that. You need people like that, though.
It's like I just love making comic books. This is amazing. And so I love those. That different, all the differences that come through as well. And then some people that I made friend Tony McMillan, he did this book called Attaboy that Mad Cave Studios picked up.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of hits that like 80s youth divorced missing dad thing that was going on, which I'm of that age where like, the latchkey kids and parents were getting divorced and stuff, and you're just trying to figure out life on your own kind of thing in the mid 80s kind of thing. And so he did a book about basically like about a video game that you kind of sort of remembered, and it was just a really cool book. And his style is like off the wall, kind of like Bill Sienkiewicz, like more experimental kind of thing. And so those three like really jump out at me as like the creators I want to talk about. Like my best friend Jamie Jones, he's been publishing comic books forever, and he's like my partner in crime. So I love his stuff. But Paul Kirshner, who lives in New Haven,
cool.
He did some stuff for heavy metal in the 70s, and he's been publishing comic books everywhere. He's been publishing comic books for a long time, but he's like, a New Haven resident that has been doing it forever, and I just love talking to him. And then Ken Landgraf was doing, the underground comic scene in the 70s and 80s, and he's from the city, so it's good to talk to him as well because he started at Marvel and he's got some insane stories to tell. But like Dean Haspel, Jim Rugg, and Tom Scioli are like the new garb of not indie but indie folks. Like they've been able to do indie at the financially successful level. So that's why like they're like the headliners that are coming in, and they've been able to do it. They've done work at Marvel and DC, but like they've used their indie work to do go even farther as well. And so they're more. I think they're like in the 40s, so like they're like established creator. Like they're like I guess like I'm trying to think of who would they be in like sports, but they would, they'd be like the Peyton Mannings. Like Peyton Manning's probably the same age as them. So they'd be in Peyton. So when I'm trying to find like I'm a Bears fan, so I'm like, who's the next Caleb Williams? Like who's gonna be?
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. I appreciate the analogy.
Yeah. I basically talk through everything through like film and sports, sports and stuff like that. But it was this year I wanted to bring in some editors so that because like part of this show, I like to think of it as like a hybrid conference/convention, so that the creators coming to it get something out of it as well. So we have Mike Martz, who's the editor-in-chief of Mad Cave, and then we have Heather Antos from where she's from IDW, and so they're going to do portfolio reviews as well. Eli Schwab from Cosmic Lion, he's out in LA, but he's coming in with the whole crew as well. But he's going to do portfolio reviews as well because I want like kids to show up to this. I want high school kids to show up, and I want college kids to show up, and I want them, I want them to be the next, amazing artist. Because even though our show is only only 1 year old, we had our show last year, we're gonna have the show this year. We had people that last year was their first show, and then they went touring and doing everything. Now this is their second year, and I'm very excited to do. See what they do,
bro.
Yeah, but we also have at least 5 people that showed up to the first show, showed their wares, and now this is their first show.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
so cool.
Yeah.
I was about to ask about that. Do you for the up and coming like indie companies that that are brand new, do you give them also an opportunity to show their stuff? They just again, this is be their first spotlight or opportunity to sell stuff that they worked on, but they're like brand new, like newbies. Because I hear you talking about some of the people that worked in Marvel and some of the more more experienced people that are indies, but kind of something that can inspire like an up and coming indie comic book artist slash writer or creator to do you give them an opportunity, like have like make like reserve a spot or two for them to also, you know, take a you know take their shot, because I'm a big fan of
As I'm
indie
taking my shout out,
comics.
WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, Preston, Easy Blues, Professor Matthew Shorter. Go ahead, Professor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Because I'm a fan of like Manuel Godoy and the whole Black Sands thing. I'm super fan. I think it's amazing. So yeah, so that's kind of my question. Do you also like reserve like a spot or two for like brand new stuff that, because you never know, that might be your next Image, or that might be your next Marvel. You never know, coming from the indies. What about that?
I've been holding in absolutely for like 5 minutes. Like absolutely, those people are welcome, and it's not because it's people say it to my detriment that I do this, but like this show is for them, and when people apply, I look at everybody on a level playing field.
That's
And
awesome.
it's like it's the artwork that's amazing, and there's some people who are like I'm not gonna name names, but there was somebody that like was like, "Hey, do you have a table?" So my friend wants a table, and I was like, "Well, if something frees up, I might be able to squeeze you into stuff like that." And their reply was like, "Well, I don't think so and so is a type of person that's gonna wait for a spot to open up." And I was like, "Well, the one thing that I don't have at my show is egos. Like I don't have an ego. This show is for creators by creators. Like that's the tagline." And like it's we do bring in some bigger names, so that people can learn from them, and that's my thing.
That's awesome.
I want them to have a good show and everything like that. I want them to be profitable, but like I want people to learn from you. So if you don't understand that, you're probably not going to get invited to my show.
Got it.
That's
awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And so I got this list, and I want up and coming people to apply to the show, but I also like have a little bit of a standard, kind of thing. There's a standard, and I can see it in your, if you show me your Instagram handle or something like that, I can see if you're working hard and stuff. And but there needs to be, I can usually tell if somebody is a go-getter when I'm like looking at how they reply through social media or through email and everything like that. Like, again, when we talk about communication, like I'm dealing with like emails, DMs, like all messages from all over the place, and being like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure all that out. But the best example I have is this kid, Jacob White, from the outskirts of Pittsburgh. And he was like, hey, can I get on your show? Can I, he applied for the show, and I sent everybody like an email saying like, hey, we're on a wait list, and this was for last year's show. And I was like, hey, have you done a show before? And he's like, no. And he's like, but I can draw you an example of what my booth would look like. And I was like, oh my God, yes, totally send me that. Awesome. And he sent me this insane diagram of his show and what he wanted to do and everything like that. And I was like, I'm going to get this kid in my show. I don't know what I have to do, but I'm going to make sure this kid has a spot in it, because he just went the extra mile, And then I'm really excited to see him at this show, because that was his first show. And then he like has busted his ass the past 365 days, going to multiple other shows, honing his craft, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And so I'm really excited to see his booth this year and what he wants to offer. And I'll talk about this a lot, but like I really like being on people's timeline for just like a hot minute, and then watching their timeline continue from afar and seeing how they grow or progress. And because I want everybody to come to the show to be successful after my show. Like and I want to see all these people, become amazing creators and everything. And being able to like witness them in person for a little bit, and then just stand back for the next like 360 days and watch them do it through social media and everything like that. And I'm always happy seeing people be successful.
Yeah, because I see I'm a middle school writing teacher. And I have some students that in my past couple of years that are incredible. Like, and I used to draw comic books when I was a kid myself. Like, I have tons of characters that I created, and I wanted to be a comic book artist slash writer growing up. But I see such promise in them. I mean, one of my girls, she draws her own characters, writes her own stories, and I taught her there's this thing called Book Creator that we use, and I taught her how to set it up so she can do like graphic novels and stuff. But I see someone like her not knowing where to go afterwards and not knowing where to, and so it's awesome to know that there's something like this where, you know, she could possibly one day be able to, I don't want to say peddle her wares, but you know what I mean? Like be able
Show
to
her wares.
show her wares. Yeah. You know what I mean? So just to know that, you know, she could possibly as an indie, you know, make it out there. You know what I mean? So thank you.
No,
Thank you
that's
for
awesome.
mentioning that.
And you know, I mean, I don't know how old middle school kids are, but if your
She's
class wants,
11. She's 11 and she was killing it.
yeah,
Like I
if
love
your
the
kids want
stories.
free tickets, you know, I will send you some free tickets if you guys want free tickets.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I've been working really hard this year to try to reach out to as many, you know, colleges and schools and libraries and public venues to where like I want people who want to create to come to this show.
Nice.
I don't want to leave anybody out.
That's awesome.
I want to make sure everybody makes it. And so one of my other friends, Mark DeRosa, he works at Staples High School in Westport.
Okay.
He's an art teacher, and his final project, the kids put together an anthology comic book.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
I was like, holy, you know, I almost cursed there. I almost cursed.
Yeah. Almost.
I almost cursed too.
I almost cursed too. Because it blows my mind. Because if I was in high school and I was able to publish a comic book in high school,
Oh yeah.
my whole life would have changed.
Oh man, that's
totally
inspiration right there.
Different world.
Oh,
world.
bro.
Yeah. And so it is so easy to publish a comic book now.
Right.
Where like, you know, whether, you know, if you can't physically publish it, you can put it on the website. You can make an Instagram comic book. There's so many different ways to put your story out there in the world.
Oh yeah.
Where I don't want anybody to feel intimidated making a comic book.
Right.
Like it's easy to make a comic book.
Right.
Like getting good at making a comic book is hard. But it's that first step is easy.
Right.
Right.
You know, but like getting better at your craft and honing your craft and dominating your craft, like that's hard. But like that first step to where that first step was insurmountable, you know, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I really want people to leave my show, whether they're attendees or creators, inspired to make more comic books. Like
That's
that is
awesome.
it right there. Like I want you to like run home and be like, I have to hit the drawing board. I have to do this. Like, cause I want to get a comic book for the next show.
Right.
And I want to show people
That's
what I've done.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Like I said, I always try to, because I know when I was growing up and I was in middle school and high school, again, I used to draw my own comics and write and stuff because I've always been like a Marvel DC fan and became like just a Marvel fan. And I wanted to work for Marvel Comics at one point. And I knew that back then it was a crapshoot. Like you had to be really I don't know, I never knew the steps on how to do it. I think I even sent a comic to Stan Lee at one point at Marvel Comics years ago when I was a kid. But
That's awesome.
yeah, but it's like I always thought that it would be impossible. But then later on, when like things like the Ninja Turtles popped up and you saw a lot of like indie stuff popping up, it felt more promising. Like, you know, I was well past, you know, the thought of me doing it anymore. But now I see this thing where you can even self-publish like on Amazon and stuff like that, create a book and publish it yourself. So it is great to be able to do that. But also it's amazing to know that there are conventions and stuff where indies can go and actually do their thing. So that's amazing. So I'm very, very happy to hear that's what you also offer.
What's not
Thank you for
amazing though is I gotta cut the cord. It's coming up with the last minutes Matt. I feel I can talk to you, or we can talk to you for a good 3-4 hours.
Oh man.
Just BSing. I feel like I would love to have you back on, not even talking about the con, just talking about just different everything when it comes to
Well,
this.
not only that, but talking about the con itself, we'd love
Yeah.
to, like, next year, if you guys have like a couple of people you want to highlight, send them our way. We'll highlight them in so that you have 2 or 3 episodes running up to the Comic-Con itself. Let us help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to
I was
any way
so
we
happy
support.
when I got the email from you. I was like so jazzed and everything like that. And honestly, this has only felt like 5 minutes.
I know.
Yeah,
That's
man.
why.
Well, that's why
About
we
this.
have to say the thing about the cursing, because people get so relaxed on our show
Yeah.
that they're like, I feel like I'm hanging out with my friends. So blah blah, drop bomb, drop. We had somebody tell Spotify exactly where to go, in not so many words.
But
Well, you
Matt,
mentioned yes.
I'm very sorry, but I just want to give this. We do this to every guest on our program. These last couple minutes just for you. Social media plug, anything you got coming up with the con coming up, any other events with the con in the foreseeable future of 2025 coming up. This time is yours, but you can also continue what you have to say. The rest of this time is for you, man.
All right, so Indie Comics Creator Con is at Southern Connecticut State University on March 15th. It's a one-day show. We do have, if you go to the website, it has our official hotel. We have drink and draw on Friday, and then we have an after party on Saturday night at the hotel. And those are two, like, if you're a comic book nerd, like, those are premier events to go to as well, because everybody will just be hanging out at the hotel. But social media, Indie Comics Creator Con, on them all. We're on, Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Trying to keep it simple. We also have a YouTube channel, Indie Comics Creator Con, where myself and Jamie Jones interview the creators that are coming to the show, and they're like an hour long, so it's like a deep dive into that. But that's it, really. If you have an organization that wants free tickets to the show, definitely shoot me a message at indiecomicscreatorcon.com, and I will send you some free tickets.
Excellent.
Matt, thank you.
Awesome.
We appreciate you. I'm looking forward to just future conversations, because we can it's for hours. I feel the vibe.
Yeah, man, this is great. There's so many avenues I want to talk to you about, and I can't wait to meet you guys at the meet you again, Preston, and meet the rest of you guys at the show in a couple weeks.
Gonna get
Definitely,
so much
man.
to talk about.
Myself, Preston, partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, EZ, BlueZ, and the OG Blurred himself, supervillain to many, superhero to those who matter. His name is the Professor. Matt, thank you once again. WNHH LP 103.5 FM, New Haven.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.